And then step 3 is the maximum rate on the auger conveyor. I'd say let's just set it right here on the corner of the table, it'll be fine. Yeah, that'll be fine. And I tell you what, if a couple of you guys maybe can grab a table back there, because I know he's getting ready to bring some pizzas in. I don't want him to drop them things. So set us up a couple of tables back there right quick, and then he can bring them in and set them down. And we'll be finishing up here in just a few minutes. So we're going to set the low on the conveyor, the high on the conveyor, and then step 4 is the spinner, which is the lane width. Now, step 5, setting the maximum lane width. Remember this morning we talked about that, that we could go in here if you had a driver that was abusing the equipment, and we could turn this thing down and derate it for the 3rd and 4th lane because we don't need them. This is the place you do it, setting spinner maximum. You don't want that spinner to operate any faster than 2 lanes wide. And this is where you limit it at right here. Exactly. So that's what we're trying to prevent doing. If you've got 4 lanes, then you need it. You know, you need to turn it up. But this is where you can reel it down at this point too. If you only need 2 lanes, by golly, let's just make it run 2 lanes. That way he's not throwing it into ditch banks. All right, same thing for liquid on the high and the low, setting that. Now, step 8. We talked about this a little bit with the operators about a blast timer. If you wanted to change the blast to a timer, you could do that here. I do not recommend you doing that. Leave it on a momentary button. So as long as he's holding that button, it's blasting, and when he releases it, it goes back to whatever the preset was. Because you're changing his mode of operation from what he's used to. He's used to having a momentary blast button. Let's don't upset that. Let's leave it alone. Let's don't change that. Let's leave it a momentary button and don't put a timer on it. All right. So step 9 is ground speed. We have 3 different choices, but we can only program 2 at a time. Manual is always there. You can't deprogram manual. Okay, ground speed mode, number 9. All right, ground speed mode. Manual is always inherent. You can't change that. Manual is always there. You're either turning it on or turning it off. The other 2 choices we have is ground speed triggered and ground speed oriented. Let me explain what this is. Back in the old days, we didn't have a choice between those 2. We've set it up for ground speed triggered. Now, okay, what the heck does that mean? And it'll tell you in the glossary, but let me tell you my words. I can do it faster. Ground speed oriented means that if I was a state DOT, I would probably want that. And as my truck started to speed up, my spreader speeds up. And as it slows down, my spreader slows down. So it just goes with the truck speed, goes with the flow. Ground speed triggered. This is a new feature, and I really, really like that for local municipalities, cities and counties and towns and stuff like that. Here's why I like it. Ground speed triggered means that the spreader is turned on and off just like a light switch. And as long as I'm moving, this spreader is turning, but as soon as I slow down to a stop sign or a stoplight, as I'm slowing down, this spreader is still going at the same speed. The spreader hadn't slowed down any at all until the truck stops. And when the truck stops, boom. It's just like a light switch. We turned it off. What's the advantage of that? The advantage of that is not using the blast button as much. Because think about it. If my normal rate is 25 miles an hour and I'm spreading at 25 miles an hour, everything's going fine, as I slow down to this stop sign or stoplight, as I'm slowing down, my truck speed's slowing down, but my spreader's not. My spreader's still going at 25 miles an hour. Why do I want that? Because I want a little bit more material on the road as I slow down and go through this intersection. I won't have to hit the blast button as much. So the truck is slowing down, but the spreader's going at the same speed until the truck stops, and then all of a sudden, boom, spreader stops. Now, just as soon as the truck starts back up again, it can see as little as 2 miles an hour. Boom, spreader's triggered back on again. So as we're going through this intersection and picking speed back up again, we're inherently putting a little bit more material through this intersection. It just does it automatically. We don't have to think about anything. That's what I really, really like about the ground speed triggered. You can still use blast if you want to, but that's a really neat configuration to use, and it will help the driver not need the blast button as much. So all that makes sense. It's just as simple as that. We have a light switch on the spreader. When the spreader sees truck moving, boom, spreader on. When the truck stops, boom, spreader off. You know, so as
Where's the default at?
default as.
Default to one or the other? Or?
Yeah, you can program it to ground speed oriented or ground speed triggered. The factory default is triggered. All your trucks, anybody that has one of these touch pads like this, it is set up as factory for ground speed trigger, because I highly recommend that. You can go behind us and you can change it if you want to. But typically you would be a faster truck, like a DOT truck or something, to use the ground speed oriented. All right, so the factory setting is ground speed triggered. All right, that's one of the other little neat things there. Step 12, LED brightness. You know, I told you we could turn the LED brightness up and down on this thing, so it's not glaring so bad. Kind of looking through here to look at some more important ones. I would say when you get a chance to, just sit down and just kind of go through this a little bit. It's not complicated. Some of the other things that I would, because we're going through hoist and plow functions,